Yeah, welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you here today. Gonna have a guest, gonna have my guy Mel, the host of the Man Down Sports Podcast, joining us, and we're gonna talk some NBA. Should be very interesting, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But before we get to all that, if you haven't already and you're here on YouTube, make sure you go ahead, click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in the Format Podcast. We should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, please make sure you give us that 5-star review, give us that like, and subscribe to the channel and leave us a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us, helps us take this show to a new level for the year 2024. And let's get right to it. Me, Mel, Man Down Podcast, the Format Podcast. Let's get it. So let me ask you real quick. This is funny. I want to make sure everybody knows this before we move on to the next topic. This is the first time you and I have ever actually spoken, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the reason I want to put that out there is because a lot of times I get accused of only, talking to people and having guests on my show who see things or think things the way I think them. And I want to make it clear that it happens that we agree on this, but this is the first time you and I are ever actually really sitting down talking ball. So I just want to make sure that I get that out there. All right. So it was funny that you mentioned some of the things you mentioned, because that rolls right into our next topic. And what that is I constantly hear, generally from younger people, but I constantly hear the modern NBA players are more skilled than they've ever been. And when I hear that, I say, stop. And the first thing is, you just touched on it, how the rules were literally changed to proliferate offensive production, to boost scoring, and to allow the offensive player to do what they have to do with less obstruction. And so when I hear modern NBA players are more skilled than they've ever been, I'm like, how is that? For one, they literally allow ball handlers to carry and travel constantly.
Correct.
They've literally changed the rules to allow this. The 0 step, the gather step. I'm not sure how old you are. I'm 45 years old. When I was growing up watching ball, 0 step and gather step did not exist. Now, I'm not saying that rules can never change. I'm not saying that things can't evolve. But when you literally change the rules to make things easier and to allow players to get away with violations, I'm not sure how that means they're more skilled. And my second thing is, because more players today can shoot the three. I think the NBA on average as a league shoots 35, 36% from three. That doesn't necessarily mean they're more skilled. That means they do it more. And by repetition in most things in life, the more you do it, the better you get. Now, with that said, shooting all those threes to me just says they traded one skill for another, because you have bigs that can shoot the three, and people will tell you the bigs today are better, but those same bigs, other than Jokic and Embiid, can't go on the block, go over the shoulder, or get a step through and get a bucket in the post when you need one. So does that mean they're more skilled because they can shoot the three? Because they can't go and do other big man skills. It just means they traded one thing for another. Your thoughts on the narrative that today's players are so much more skilled than the players of the past?
I agree is that what you said at the end, that the big men traded one skill for another. They traded the post game, which is a skill and an art, for 3-point shooting, right? And all 3-point shooting is just, okay, we're shooting threes now. It was big men that had touch. You can look at their free throw shooting. You can look at Elijah Ron. You can look at Rich Smith. You can look at those big men back
David
then,
Robinson,
and see that they had touch when they shot the ball. Karl Malone was a good free throw shooter for a power forward, and a good elbow jump shooter. So they had touch. If they wanted to expand out to the 3-point line, it wouldn't have been a problem for them to develop that as well. So I wouldn't even look at it as like a skill, because we always had big men that could shoot. They just didn't shoot threes, right? So I wouldn't say they trading the post game for the 3-point skill, because that skill always existed. But like, we had big men that could shoot for sure. Right now, what they are doing is just abandoning the post, and that's going unnoticed by a lot of media, and they're not mentioning it, and a lot of fans are not aware of it. Yeah, like you said, it's 2 or 3 guys in the league that can post and go down there and do some damage at an A+ level, and that's Jokic, Embiid, and maybe a couple of other forwards. Like maybe, I don't know, Kevin Durant is decent in the post, but you know, he rely on that fadeaway a little bit too much. But yeah, my point is the post game is a skill that's, I think, that's more harder to develop and master than just shooting open threes. Right. So they didn't, if they did trade skill for skill, it's not even an equal skill. Right. And that's my opinion. So with them being more skilled, what about the wing players? I still haven't seen nobody more skilled than Kobe and Mike. Right. I still haven't seen nobody more skilled than Isaiah. You know, so you know,
right.
So are they surpassing the A+ skilled guys at every position that played before them? Probably not. They just doing it a little different, and they shoot more threes, and they just abandoning the mid range in the post game. And like I said, and mid range shooting is a skill as well. So now I don't think they more skilled. They skilled in different ways, and they shoot more threes, and it looks good.
Right. And to your point, I will say I'm not a huge fan of his, because I think there's a lot of wasted motion and unnecessary dribbling. But I think Kyrie Irving is super skilled. I think he's an elite 3-level scorer. He can get to the basket. Now, it's a lot easier to get to the basket today when you don't have to worry about a Mount Mutombo, a Dream, a D-Rob, a Zoe, a Shaq waiting there to, to punch your stuff when you go in there. But he's a very good finisher at the rim. He's good in the mid-range. He's good from three. He's good at the free throw line. He's an elite offensive player. Now, what gets me, though, they always talk about skills as if defense is not a skill. And you've got so many players that can't defend to save their life. They can't guard a parked car. And so, like, how do we think that skill only equates to one side of the basketball? That's one side of the floor. That's one thing I don't get. And so when we keep pushing this, the players are more skilled. This is the most skilled the league has ever been. I'm like, stop pushing the narrative. Like, we can big up today's players without flat out lying. I don't get it.
Yeah. Now I will come and defend Kyrie a little bit. Kyrie can play some D. I don't know how he got that bad reputation. Kyrie can play some D, man. I'm telling you. I mean, you don't go to Duke, and even though he ain't played but 10 games at Duke for Coach K, but you don't go to Duke and not get preached defense. You don't.
That's true.
I want you to watch Kyrie when he accepts the challenge, or when he was in Cleveland and he had to guard Steph Curry. He was in Curry's back pocket. He did a film study on James Harden when they first went back to Philly when he left Brooklyn, and they had that game in Philly. Oh, he did a film. I mean, it was a clinic. What he did on James Harden. Kyrie can defend.
You're gonna make me go check this now. You gonna make me go check the film. All right.
Oh yeah. So this is the thing with Kyrie and Steph Curry. Their slider frame.
Yes.
Curry's a little bigger now. He got in that weight room.
You can see he put the time in the weight room. You can see that.
And with this era of NBA with space and pace, and 5-man out basketball, they're putting the ball in their best guy's hands, which usually is a big wing like LeBron or somebody like that. And he's coming down and saying, I want a 1-4 screen and roll. Bring me Steph. And they're not preaching to fight over screens or hedge or do anything like that. They're switching everything. Right?
Yep.
And so he's saying, hey, bring me Steph. And now LeBron got Steph on him, and we're spreading the floor. And now Steph got to try to stop LeBron.
Right.
And he's looking exposed. Right. And so that's where their reputation of bad defenders came from, because they was guarding bigger guys. And you even look now with Dallas, they got him playing the 2. Why? All because Luka
can't play without the ball.
Right.
That's a different story though. No, that's a great point. But when you were talking about that, even with the fighting through screens or the switching, it made me think of a guy like Tony Allen. Now, that was a few years ago, and again, a different type of player, but that's a dude that he could guard your 1, he could guard your 2, he could guard your 3. And in this era of these slim, frail power forwards, he could even in some situations guard those guys. So I don't know that. Now, granted, he was an elite defender, but I don't know that it's always an excuse that, okay, everything is in the pick and roll, which that's another topic entirely, in terms of just lazy coaching. Everybody just wanted to do pick and roll or drive and kick. But anyway, I don't know if that's entirely an excuse. for guys not to be able to defend better. Now, with that said, I totally get it. Like, you get in a mismatch and you got a 6'1" guard and Jokic at 7'1", you know, he's either going to pass over the top or, you know, make the guy look silly. But at the same time, when you got bigs trying to put the ball on the floor, if you get caught in that 1-5 pick and roll, right? Shouldn't the guard make it more difficult for that big to try and put the ball on the ground? That should force the big to throw it over the top and get it out of his hands, because the guard is going to take that if the big tries to dribble. So all these seem like basic defensive fundamentals that I don't know where they went, both on the team and individual level. But again, I'm not a coach, so.
Yeah, that's I guess easier said than done. I can't figure it out either, man. Like with the NBA now, man, I can't figure none of this stuff out almost. Like all it's question marks all over the place. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's take it to topic number 3 here. So this is good that it kind of flows right into that. So we're talking about modern NBA players being more skilled. So last week, unfortunately, was the anniversary of 2 things involving the late great Kobe Bryant. One, the 81-point virtuoso in, what was that, 2006 against the Raptors, as well as, unfortunately, his and his daughters and others' untimely death in that helicopter crash. Now, coincidentally, with that happening in that week, you had 5 players scoring 60 or more points in the same week. And so I did a show about it, and I thought about it. And first I was thinking the Mamba would be smiling down from heaven, because we know this is one of the most aggressive, ruthless scorers in the history of the game. Like, attack, 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 attack. That was how the Mamba got down. But at the same time, even with all that attacking, this guy's 9 times first team All-NBA defense. So he's going to get in the crouch and defend you on the other side. So would he be happy with all this elite scoring going on, or would he be upset that no one's defending anything? But I bring all that up to say,
he will be upset nobody's defending, and he'll be upset how they getting the points.
So yeah, I bring all that up. You had 5 guys score 60 or more points in the same week, and then I think last night Steph Curry scored 60 again. So this is 6 occurrences of 60 points or more in a 2-week span. That's never happened in NBA history before. So check this out. This is wild. You had Joel Embiid scoring 70 and Karl-Anthony Towns scoring 62 on the same night. 3 days later, Luka scores 73, Devin Booker scores 62 on the same night. And now Curry had 60 last night, joining Kobe, who are the only players to score 60 points or more at 35 years or older. And so I bring all this up to say, again, I keep getting hit with the, look at what these young guys are doing. You're going to tell me that your era was better than mine? And I'm like, you don't think that? Again, we know for a fact, Stu Jackson, I want to say in 2004, he former vice president of the NBA, Stu Jackson put it out there that the rules were changed to allow for more freedom of movement and to allow the offensive players more room to do their thing. And then also, when we see a more spread floor, like you mentioned earlier, once guys beat their first man, and remember, you can't hand check them, you can't forearm check them, you can't get physical with them, so it's a lot easier for the offensive player to get past the defender. There's almost no help. It's like, what are you supposed to do? Now, again, these guys are, for the most part, great shooters. They're hitting threes. Like, Steph hit 10 threes last night. So that's 30 points right there. And real quick before I let you go, one of the things I bring up, Steph hit 10 threes last night. In Michael Jordan's 37 points per game season, which is the highest since the merger, he made 12 threes that entire season. So I say that to say, in my estimation, it's harder to score all those points in a tighter, more confined area without the benefit of shooting a ton of threes versus a wide open, spread floor, can't touch anyone, and you're shooting a ton of threes. Your thoughts on all this scoring? What does it mean for the modern NBA? Is this good? Is it bad? Where are you on all that?
Well, no, it's not good. It ain't good for the basketball purists. I'm pretty sure there's some people out there that's enjoying this though, but those would be the people that probably don't like basketball as much as we do, right? So, and those are the people that the NBA want to grab because they spend money too. They probably spend money more than we do, right? You get what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
So they're trying to be good business savvy men and women in the NBA. So I get it from the money side of it, but no, it's not the best basketball we could ever see, because if you look at basketball as a gumbo mix, if everything that's supposed to be in basketball is for offense, it's supposed to be post game, mid range, set plays, running off screens, on ball screens, off ball screens, catch and shoots, dribble drive, driving kick, all that stuff is supposed to be in there. High post, low post, mid post, all that's supposed to be in there, right? In the offense. And then for defense, it's supposed to be where the player is actually allowed to play defense to their best ability, right? But what we're getting is we're handicapping the defense, and then we're giving the offense, an advantage. But also the sets that they're running is all the same cookie cutter sets. Everybody's doing 5-man out. The big man is getting almost obsolete. A guy like Andre Drummond can't even get in the game, right? A guy like Dwight Howard or DeMarcus Cousins can't even get a job, right? A big man can't even stand in the paint and use his advantage as a 7-footer to protect the rim. He's got to be outside of the paint, sometimes in the corner with a 3-point shooter. Like it's ridiculous, and they're purposely doing it for more points. So you're not getting basketball in totality. You're just getting offense, and you only getting offense in one way: dribble, drive, and kick, 3-point shooter. That's it. That's all you getting. And that's not basketball. And you got to look at basketball outside of the lens of the NBA. People think NBA and basketball is synonymous. Basketball is above the NBA. Like, basketball is a pure thing. NBA has drawn from it and saying, this is what we're going to give you our version of basketball. But basketball is so pure that it supersedes NBA. So you got to look at it that way.
To your point, that is an interesting point that you made, because it makes me think about international basketball, more specifically European basketball. And it's amazing to me because if we go back, everyone talks about we've never seen anything like Jokic before. But from all accounts, Arvydas Sabonis was Jokic before Jokic. Unfortunately, he was stuck behind the Iron Curtain in the Eastern Bloc, and he couldn't get over to the States to show us what he had until he was well past his prime. Now, that's a dude who anyone who played against him on an international level would tell you he was an animal. But with that said, you saw European guys, even superstars, Drazen Petrovic. He couldn't crack the starting lineup in Portland when he first got here. And this is the guy who scored 114 points in one game in Europe. Tony Kukoc, he was Luka before Luka in Europe. He got over here and he had a hell of a time. He was a 6-man off the bench with Mike and Scotty in Chicago. He didn't walk in the league and start killing. And so I bring all that up to say, you heard multiple European players, whether it's Jokic, whether it's Giannis, whether it's Luka and others, saying it's easier to score here than it is in Europe. What happened to the NBA that a European, not that there's anything wrong with him, but that a European player would dare come over here and open his mouth in the NBA to say that? Like, we never would have heard that in the past. To me, that says there's very little pride from NBA players that these guys would be able to come over here and talk like that. And the fact is, now we're talking about the players and the skill level that we talked about in the last topic. The European players, because they're getting all the traditional skill drilling and fundamentals, they're coming over here to our league more skilled, more ready to play, and more ready to immediately contribute. I think Luka now has the 3rd highest scoring average in the history of the game. I think he walked in the league getting 24 a game. Like, that's nuts. That's nuts. And it's crazy. I mean, it's
a couple of things that's going on, right? So the first thing is the NBA and European basketball did a role reversal.
They did. That's right.
So David Stern, he had a league of ruffians.
Yes.
Right. He had a league. He had a league of rough and tough Charles Oakleys, Anthony Masons, Charles Barkley's, Shaq's, these dudes, And so what would happen was these European players always was more skilled. Like Vlade Divac came over here a more skilled center than almost every 7-foot out there. He could dribble, he could pass, he could shoot, he could post, he could do almost everything except play defense. That's the one thing that European players don't come over here accustomed with is defense and athletic ability. So what happened is they would come over here, they would get overwhelmed with the size, the speed, the power,
physicality,
and the physicality, and the bullying as well. You seen Shaq when Yao Ming first came over.
Oh yeah,
bullied him. right? So you would get bullied when you came over. You seen when Kukoc was playing the Dream Team in the Olympics, what did Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan do? They went over there and bullied him. That was the best they had to offer. So no matter how skilled they were back then, the physicality would always make them second tier when they got over here, and it took them years to figure it out a lot of times, right? Sometimes they didn't, right? So that was the first thing that happened, is that David Stern seen the openness and the skillfulness that was going on overseas, and he wanted to switch the NBA game to that. He wasn't able to accomplish it before he retired and passed it over to Silver, but Silver, he continued and took the torch and continued going in that direction, right? So, but meanwhile, what's going overseas? They're tired of getting bullied by us physically, going over there and beating them up during the Olympics. So they started trying to model their game like the NBA. So 10, 15, 20 years later, we get a whole reversal. Now that the NBA is more finesse and the European League is more physical. How did that happen, right? So that's the first thing that happened. The second thing that happened is that with those rule changes, we're no longer able to use our physicality to overwhelm them. And Adam Silver is saying, I purposely changed those rules because I think we should see more skilled players flourish, and we shouldn't have physical guys not allowing them to showcase their skills on a big stage. So so the rule changes kind of help facilitate that a more skilled player will have an advantage in this league, right? And then the third thing that happened is you get these great stars coming over here, and you see that wide open market in Europe that you want to tap into.
Oh yeah.
And the NBA wants that money over there as well.
Yes,
and
they do.
The best way to do that is promote the people that represent them in the NBA, and it works. You know, Serbia is a big basketball NBA fan now.
Yeah, it's a hot
because of Jokic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all it takes is one guy, and you must promote those guys, and you know, those are the things that's going on.
Yeah, and Slovenia with Luka, absolutely. Greece now, Giannis. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. All right, well, let's switch gears a little bit. So we know that recently one of the big topics in the league has been this past season to kind of combat load management and players deliberately sitting out games, etc. It was put in a 65 game minimum with, I think, 20 minutes played in each game, that or average of 20 minutes played, that players must have to be able to be eligible for postseason awards, all NBA teams, etc. And personally, I think that's fantastic. But now you've got players really complaining about this. Tyrese Halliburton was complaining about it the other day. Draymond Green was on his podcast complaining about it the other day. So what I want to do here is I want to play some of what Draymond Green had to say about this topic, and then we'll come back and address it. All right, so let's check that out.
All right.